Welcome to Heresy, the Horus Heresy talk show. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Imperial Fists. We're going to be reviewing the whole faction over the course of multiple videos, but in this part, we're going to be talking about the faction rules and the Armoury. We're going to be talking about the faction trait and the advanced reaction. We're going to be talking about their Warlord Traits, and we're also going to be talking about their equipment and their special console, the Castellan, as well. But before we do that, if you enjoy the channel, please do drop me a like and subscribe on YouTube. I would really appreciate that. And if there is anything in this video that you would like to talk about, please do drop me a comment, and any feedback you've got as well would also be super appreciated. Now on with the show. So let's start with the Imperial Fists faction trait. So it's called Discipline and Resolve, and what it does is it gives you +1 to hit with bolters or auto weapons. So the auto weapons category is quite big. It's most of the assault cannons, auto cannons, and also a lot of the vehicle weapons as well. So the Predator auto cannon, the Fellblade's main gun, the Sikaran's accelerator auto cannon. So it's quite a lot of stuff. But the main thing is it gives you +1 to hit with bolters. That's probably the most common weapon you're going to be using with. So is this good or not? I see a lot of people who think this is a really fantastic trait, and I think it's okay. It's quite good. If you're using lots of tactical marines, which is, a really good thing to do in this edition of the game. And then we've got their advanced reaction, which is called the best defense, which is a very powerful out-of-sequence activation. So in the enemy's movement phase, when they end a move within 10 inches of you, you can decide to make a charge against them, which is super, super powerful. One of the best reactions in all of the legions, in my opinion, for a couple of reasons. So whereas some of the legions get sort of enhanced Overwatch or enhanced return fire with Iron Warriors or something to that effect, the reason this one's good is because it happens in the enemy's movement phase. So first of all, if someone's trying to charge you, you're going to get the charge instead of them. Also, it means that your unit can't be shot in their shooting phase as well. So if that unit was something they were going to try and take off the battlefield, you've put it into combat before they can shoot it, which is also super good. Just very, very powerful thing to be able to do. But best of all, unlike some other reactions which require sometimes difficult rolls to go off. So for example, the Emperor's Children have a similar-ish reaction, but it's when the enemy charges you, you can charge them back, but you have to beat them on a charge roll, like an opposed charge roll, which is 50-50. This is basically just you charge the enemy, and that's it. So it also goes off more easily as well, and it's kind of a bit of a shame to see looking at the Emperor's Children one, because it's basically just a worse version of this one in every way. There's no comparable balance there at all. This is just better in every aspect. So it's really good versus enemies that want to charge you. It's also good when you are trying to defend something with one of your units as well, which is very Imperial Fist thematic. If you've got a melee unit, maybe some breaches or phalanx warders, near a unit of heavy support guys, and the enemy sort of wants to go and charge them, you can maybe charge before they go and charge your squishy unit as well, which is also really cool. Now, this doesn't move you 2d6 on the charge, it moves you 1d6 plus your initiative, which means, in my opinion, it's affected by the heavy trait. If you read the wording of the things, it's not super clear about that, because the heavy trait refers to movement, and this isn't a movement, it's a charge, although the definition of those words is a little bit difficult. So in my opinion, you get -1 to the charge roll on this, which I don't think is always that bad a thing, really. Because a lot of the time, if people are going to be wanting to charge, they're going to come close anyway. So you won't need a very high roll to get into charge. A lot of the time, you will do it automatically, just with your initiative roll. But either way, this is a very powerful advanced reaction. Certainly one of the best in the game, in my opinion. Makes all the other legions that are like melee specialists a little bit jealous, for sure. Okay, we'll do the Warlord Traits next. So Imperial Fist get a fantastic set of Warlord Traits, and again, I want to say they've maybe got the best set of Warlord Traits of any that I've read as a set of 3. Maybe not the individual best Warlord trait, but it's just great because they're all focused on doing one thing. So you got Solar Marshal, which is +1 weapon skill to the whole unit that the character is in, which is absolutely crazy, and yet again makes the melee legions a little bit sad, because weapon skill is basically the most important thing in a fight between two units, particularly if they're similar in power level. If you've got one higher than the opponent, you hit them in 3s, they hit you on 5s. It's a massive swing in power level. Giving a weapon skill to a whole unit is huge. This also gives you a reaction in any phase, but only with the Warlord's unit, which is probably not as good as just getting one in the shooting phase or the assault phase, because it's much easier for your opponent to play around when they know this unit's got an extra reaction, so they just don't shoot it in the shooting phase, or they might not need to charge it, in the assault phase, etc. So it's much easier to play around this, but the +1 weapon skill is massive. Then they've got Warden of Inward, which makes you auto-pass morale and pinning checks when you're in 6 inches of an objective. Now this is also really good. Knowing that you've got a unit that won't leave until it's completely been destroyed is really powerful. And although this is quite good on anything, it's particularly good on a unit of Tactical Marines, because Tactical Marines are just so bulky for their points. If you can put the Warlord in with them, your opponent's going to have to cleave through the whole unit, and normally they would run first, probably at some point, because there's so many models to die. But with this, it guarantees all 20 have got to be taken down. But it's also good in other units as well, even with Terminators, anything at all. That certainty that they're not going to go anywhere is huge. Then the last one we've got is Architect of Devastation. So this is a shooting phase reroll, which is, again, as I always say, I think the best kind. And it also lets you reroll hits of 1 with the unit joined by the Warlord while he's in cover, or while you're in cover or a fortification. Now, there's not many sources of rerolls in this game, and also as well, a lot of things in this army will hit on a 2 because of the faction trait. So if you can put the Warlord and say a unit of assault cannons who are hitting on a 2, they're basically all guaranteed to hit, which is quite a big deal. The only downside with this one, I would say, is that most of the time, Warlords are pretty good in combat, and the best way to leverage them is getting them into combat, so they don't really want to sit around escorting a shooting unit all the time. But it is certainly, quite a powerful thing that you could do, for sure. And your Warlord doesn't always have to be going into melee. Now, the reason I like this set of Warlord traits is because you've got a powerful melee one, a powerful shooting one, and a powerful anti-leadership tech one, which is kind of like a bit of a holy trinity, really. You can do whatever you want with these Warlord traits. Most legions get at most 2 Warlord traits they can use, sometimes because they're loyalist or heretic locked. And these ones, Solar Marshal's locked to loyalist, but all 3 of them are good. So you've got choices in any army you make with these, which is great, and they're all powerful choices as well. So I think Imperial Fists have done really well out of their Warlord traits. So onto the Armoury, and this is juicy. Everything in the Imperial Fists Armoury is very efficient. And again, not every Space Marine Legion can say that everything in its army is even something it's going to really want to take a lot of the time. So to start with, they've got the Vigil Storm Shield. This is a classic 40k Storm Shield. It's, the early version of it. It just gives you a 3+ invulnerable save. 3+ invulnerable saves are just so very, very good in this game. Now, they're not very cheap, but they are effectively the same points cost for the invulnerable save bonus that you get on Tartaros or Cataphracti Terminators. So Tartaros get them for 5 points more, but Tartaros cost 5 points less than a Cataphracti anyway, so there's really no reason to put these on a suit of Cataphracti Terminators if we're being, using these as powerfully as we can, because you might as well put them on Tartaros. They'll have the same save as Cataphracti, but they'll be able to sweep, which I think is a bit of an oversight rules-wise. I don't think you ever want to be in a position where you just automatically make one better than the other. I think these should probably be a bit more expensive on Tartaros Terminators to account for that, but there you go. So a 3+ save, super powerful. And then also as well, we've got Teleport Strike on top of that. So for 25 points, a unit can be given the Deep Strike rule, a unit of Terminators, and that includes Terminator Command Squads as well, or 20 points on a character. Obviously, this pairs very well with 3+ save Storm Shields. It means you can Deep Strike stuff onto the battlefield, and it means it's actually got the survivability to survive interceptor shots being thrown at you. And because you can do it with lots of units, it means you can put enough of them on the board as well that you can overwhelm those interceptors maybe. So what is really a theme you could go for with this army, even just by looking at those 2 pieces of equipment, is lots of Terminators, probably Pride of the Legion, Vigil Storm Shield, Teleport Strike, coming down onto the battlefield and just getting in people's faces, maybe with a Warden of Inward in one of the units to make them 5 or 6 weapon skill. Super great options for Imperial Fist there. Interesting way to build your army. Now, feeding further into that again is the Solarite Power Gauntlet. So this is a Strength 10 AP1 Power Fist. It's 5-point upgrade, which is very, very cheap for what it does, because most importantly, it's not a specialist weapon. That's the single best thing that this does. It means you can get +1 attack. So if you put this on a Sergeant, or if you put this on a guy who's not in Terminator armor and is able to get those 2 weapon bonuses, you're not only getting an extra powerful Power Fist, but also +1 attack as well, which is very, very valuable in terms of what you can do. But its raw stats are also very good. So Strength 10, so it can instant death even the few things in the game that do get Toughness 5, like Galvorbak or a Librarian with Biomancy powers. You can still instant death those things. You can also wound Dreadnoughts on a 2, which is a very relevant thing because Dreadnoughts are super good, especially if you've got an extra attack while you're doing that as well with the squad. You could potentially even kill a Dreadnought before it kills your squad. With stats like that, it's really good. And also as well, because it's Strength 10, it can actually penetrate vehicles where your normal Strength 8 Power Fists either can't or will struggle to do much more than a glance. This can easily penetrate vehicles. It definitely will glance them a lot. And when it does pen, it's got AP1 as well, better than a Power Fist. So really, for 5 points, there's absolutely no reason not to take this. If you're ever paying 10 points for a Power Fist, you should definitely be paying 5 points for this on top. It is still very good on Terminators as well. So even though you won't get the benefits out of the specialist weapon part of it, you will have Terminators, maybe with Vigil, Storm Shields and Teleport Strike, who've got super punchy Power Fists to go with it as well. Again, really, really good option in the Imperial Fist Armoury there. And continuing the really good options, now we come to the Iliastus Assault Cannon. So this is Strength 6, Rendon on a 6, 4 shots, assault, 24-inch range. It's got a really, really, really good stat line. It is 10 points. It's a little bit weaker on vehicles, because when you take it in the vehicle options, it's replacing the vehicle's main gun. So it's replacing the Predator autocannon, which is arguably quite a much stronger weapon, or it's replacing a Dreadnought weapon, which are also very strong as well. They're not the greatest options doing that. Maybe they are cool and they are fun and they definitely will look good. It's definitely a thing you can do if you want to. But where these really shine is on units of heavy support squads. So they replace Flamers for 10 points. That's pretty cheap, really. So you're getting 4 shots at Strength 6. Everyone should know how good the Volkite Culverin is, right? Which is 5 shots, Strength 6. This is only 4 shots, Strength 6, but it is Rendon 6. So overall, it comes out even better than the Volkite Culverin. And importantly, it's an assault. So that means you can have a mobile denial unit walking up the board, whereas your normal heavy support squads have got to hang back with the heavy weapons shooting them. This squad can just be wandering around denying things, which is really good. I think this is a super, super powerful option, especially when you consider that it also gets +1 to hit from the Legion trait as well. So for 150 points, 5 of these guys, they're putting out 20 shots, they're hitting on 2s, so that's 17 or 18 of them are going to hit most of the time, and then they're going to wound Marines on a 2 as well. So you're getting 14 or 15 wounds out of it against Marines, of which 2 or 3 are going to be Rendon as well, which is really good. But where that's really good for the points, just to be clear, really, really efficient. But where it gets a bit more silly is because of the weird way Rendon works, and I think Rendon weapons are a bit of a victim, or a bit unusual, or maybe a bit too powerful in some ways because of the fact that Games Workshop only ever want to use D6s, and all the numbers sort of go in steps that aren't good enough. Like the difference in a Predator and a Land Raider is like too big. You know, a Predator is mega squishy, a Land Raider is actually pretty tough to most guns. So the way the numbers work are always going to mean weapons like this are a bit unusual. The unusual thing about this is it can penetrate a Land Raider very easily, because if it rolls a 6 for its Rendon, that's a 13 already, so it just needs, to roll slightly higher. It can penetrate a Land Raider, and it can easily glance a Land Raider. But what they absolutely will do is they will just munch AV-13 vehicles, because every 6 is automatically going to be a glance, and it's got a 2/3 chance of being a pen as well. So the aforementioned numbers I just told you, 150 points, 5 guys, getting an average of 17 or 18 hits. On average, that squad of 5 guys firing will kill a Predator, or will kill any AV13, 3 to 4 hit point vehicle, and it might even just pen them and blow them up without needing to get the glances as well. So this is like also versatile as well. And bear in mind, missile launchers struggle to kill those vehicles, but an assault cannon kills them with no problem. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but that's just the way the numbers work out. The drawback on these is that they get hot when they fire in a reaction, which isn't really much of a drawback at all because they're only AP4. So 20 shots from this is going to give you like 3 or 4 get hot rolls, which means one guy's going to die. So yes, you're going to lose something when you use your reactions with it. It is, it is a thing, it is relevant, but for how good these are for their points, it's definitely not like enough of a drawback, really. I think overall the Armoury for the Imperial Fists, I think I would say they've been very lucky or made out very well with the price of the things in their Armoury. So I think the Storm Shields are maybe a little bit too cheap on Tartaros Terminators, but even just having access to them Storm Shields is powerful. The Solarite Power Gauntlet definitely does too much stuff for 5 points. It should probably be either a little bit less powerful or 5 more points expensive, and the same for these Assault Cannons as well. They're also very aggressively costed, and that's why this set of equipment for Imperial Fist just feels so great, because all the options are really, really good. A lot of the options are options that other legions would absolutely love to have, so that's it's good. But are they overall massively game impacting? I think things like the potential to have night vision army-wide and those kind of things that aren't just raw stats are often more game-winning than just having better raw stats. Now, of course, there is a point when raw stats just win you games all the time. But whilst I think this is super powerful as an Armoury as a whole, I don't think it's bad or broken or overpowered or anything like that, because all there is just raw stats. It doesn't really add any capabilities or any interesting new angles to the army. It just makes their numbers really good. That said, good numbers does win games for sure. So let's look at the special console that they get as well. So the Castellan console. Now this is a bit of a game changer. So he's 80 points. He basically brings a mastercrafted heavy weapon like an assault cannon or something like that. That's not why you take him. What he does is he makes all your heavy support squads line, which is really good. And if you think back to what we just said about the assault cannon, the assault units, they're mobile, they can move, they're great denial units. Well, this guy makes them scoring units as well, which is very good. And what this allows you to do, it allows you to skimp on the scoring units in your army. So, maybe you only take 2 tactical squads, but you take 3 heavy support squads, and now you've got 5 scoring units, in maybe 2,000, 2,500 points, which is the same as or more than most people will have. But most people are generally forced into like slightly suboptimal options in order to get scoring units a lot of the time. And you're taking these absolutely optimal units, which are heavy support squads, which we all like and we want to play with and are good, and making them scoring as well. So you're either going to have more scoring units than the opponent, or you're going to have the same number as the opponent-ish, but you've taken better quality ones. It's just a really good thing to do for 80 points. But bear in mind, you will lose that scoring ability if he dies. Now, it's not super clear that this is the way it works, but it says while he's in your detachment, they gain the scoring, they gain line. And assuming he's no longer in your detachment when he's dead, they will all lose it as well. So if you do rely on these heavy support units being scoring, rather than just using them as extra scoring units, you probably want to keep them safe somewhere. So, doing the classic of hiding them behind a building or something like that might be a good option if you're playing a little bit more competitively. You definitely want to keep them out of the way of snipers, because you will absolutely be sniper fodder in a lot of those games. Although maybe that'll be a good thing. Maybe it'll distract them from shooting your apothecaries or something else. But either way, a great thing to have access to. I think when you take all of these things as a whole, Imperial Fist have done very well. So they've got a decent Legion trait. It's great on the units it works on. Doesn't necessarily do a lot for your entire army. They've got an excellent advanced reaction, probably one of the top 3 in the game, I would say. They've also got an excellent set of Warlord traits. Maybe not the individual best ones, although I would say the +1 weapon skill to a whole unit is up there with some of the best Warlord traits in the game. They've got super points efficient equipment choices as well. As I said, I don't think they've necessarily got the game-changing ones that some legions have,
but they are all very efficient. The ability to put lots of Terminators onto the board with Deep Strike and 3+ Storm Shields, the ability to take these Assault Cannon units, which is a very unique thing for an army to be able to do, is have highly mobile, highly efficient shooting, is just very good. And the Castellan really gives them a depth that no other army can match in terms of scoring units very easily, probably other than Ultramarines. So all in all, I think Imperial Fist have done very, very, very well, and I think their rules section, at least, is certainly one of the more powerful ones in the game. And that's it for this episode. Please do join me for the other parts of the Imperial Fist review, where we'll be talking about the units and the rights of war and ways to play the army. If you've enjoyed the episode, please do leave me a like or subscribe, or comment, or any feedback at all you've got for the episode too. Thank you very much for listening, everybody, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.